We're just going to go through the formalities of the meeting. The first item on the agenda is to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, which I attended, and I'm happy to confirm that, so I'm going to sign those. Apologies for absence, there are none. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. So now we come to the hearing. Again, thank you all for attending. I'm Jonathan Gale, Councillor Gale. I'm chairing this meeting. I'm assisted by the other members of the committee are on the far right, Councillor Andrew Williams, and then Councillor Carol Weston. And I'm helped by Nargis Sultan, who's going to be assisting with the legal advice. The nature of the matter considered is the application for the licence of Epicure, that's 75 High Street, Hempstead, and it's an application for a grant of a premises licence under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003. So you'll have the, we've received the documents. I think everybody's got the procedure to be followed, but I'm going to start by asking those present to introduce themselves. It's going to be a hearing. We're going to be hearing from the applicant and from the respondents, and then we will be deliberating, and we'll be able to give you a decision shortly thereafter. So if we can sort of go around the room asking for introductions. If we can have from the applicant first, please.
Ender Turan from Epicure Old Town.
Mr. Turan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Edge from Licence Leader Limited. I'm the agent acting on behalf of the applicant.
Mr. Edge. Thank you very much. Thank you. If I can have the response.
I'm Jane Boyne and I live directly above the coffee shop in the Old Town at number 79.
So is it Ms. Boylan? Or?
It's Miss
Miss
for
Boylan.
now.
I'm Fiona Adams. I live in the adjacent flat above the next property to Epicure.
Ms. Adams as well?
Yes, Miss Adams.
Okay. And then
Yeah, I'm Sally McDonald. I'm the licensing manager at the Core Council.
thank you.
And I'm Kim Knight. I'm the lead licensing officer.
And we have Trudy Angel as well.
I'll be taking the minutes today.
And in addition, this hearing will be recorded and also available to watch online, as I understand it. I understand that we've got representations from Mr. Turan and Mr. Edge as well. And Ms. Boylan, are you going to be speaking?
Yes.
And
I'm not speaking.
okay.
She leaves it to me.
Thank you very much. I've asked for any declaration of interest. I'm going to ask whether any member has visited the premises or place the subject of the application. I'm familiar with the location. Obviously, it's Hemel Hempstead High Street. I'm a councillor, not in that area, but in Leverstock Green, so I used the High Street. I was there. I've been there a fair number of times, and I actually went to just have a look round on Saturday night just to see what it's like anyway. Is anybody else?
Well, I've drunk coffee there, so that's a declaration of interest. But apart from that, I have no personal knowledge of the applicant or the premise.
And yes, I've never actually set foot inside, but thank you. So. May I ask the officers to confirm whether there's been compliance with all the relevant requirements?
Yes, Chairman, I have.
Thank you. May I ask who is going to speak and approximately how long it reasonably requires?
I will certainly No more than 10 minutes, 15 at the max, Chair.
And
Leave on about 5 minutes, Chairman, thank you.
thank you. So we're going to hear what we call submissions from either side, and then I will consider any request to question. There'll be opportunity for questions. But we will consider requests to question, but not to permit cross-examination unless it's required. And then you'll be given the opportunity to summarise your points as you wish. The officer's report. Right. There'll be an officer's report. So we'll start with, I think we start with Sally McDonald, didn't we?
Yes.
We start with Ms McDonald's going to.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
You have before you an application for the grant of a new premises licence for Epicure Old Town, 75 High Street, Hemel Hempstead, HP13AF. This application seeks authorisation to sell alcohol for consumption on the premises and to enable regulated entertainment in the form of recorded music. There has been some mediation in respect of this application, with resulting amendments proposed by the applicant's agent. These are set out in the supporting pack circulated to all parties. The application is set out in the report pack on pages 4 to 67. The 13 representations received are set out on pages 39 to 57. Mediation correspondence is set out on pages 58 to 67. The applicant and those persons who made representations have been invited to attend today's meeting to address the committee, and the details of those speaking and their submissions have been forwarded to members ahead of the meeting. The options available to the committee today are set out at paragraph 4.1 of the introductory section of the report on pages 6 and 7 of the bundle. The committee are reminded that the application must be considered on its own merits, that any steps taken must be considered appropriate in order to promote one or more of the licensing objectives, and that full and clear reasons should be given to explain why the decision was reached. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I understand that there were some more documents that were sent in a subsequent email. Are they?
They've been forwarded, yeah.
They've been forwarded.
Everything that has been received has been forwarded to members.
So just to be clear, we've got one bundle, and then we've got another three documents. There's a list of objectors,
Yeah.
documents lodged by the applicant in a PDF, and subcommittee script from Ms. Boylan.
That's correct.
Have you all, I've just got to establish whether all the members have received and read all of that.
I have all that and I've read it.
Thank you. I'm very grateful. So now we'll start with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair. As the agent acting for the applicant, Mr. Turan, we have given full regard to the representations made against the application, the licensing objectives as set out in the Licensing Act 2003, the Council's statement of licensing policy, in addition to the Home Office guidance issued under Section 182 of the Act. I've previously written a full and comprehensive response to all those who have objected and added a summary of that correspondence within the documents lodged. In accordance with general practice and the Section 182 guidance, I did mediation with the objectors via the licensing manager. Section 182 states that each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field and will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to any particular licensing objective. It is noteworthy that none of the 8 responsible authorities who could have objected or even asked for amended or proposed conditions have done so. It is therefore assumed that this was because the operating schedule had been well thought out, robust, and also because the hours were reasonable. Clearly, the responsible authorities had found nothing within the application to give them concern. There are robust policies and procedures in place to support a well-run establishment, and this was with the original hours until 2300 hours. You'll know that through mediation, these have now been reduced to 1800 hours. Speculative grounds which cannot be substantiated have previously been found by the courts to carry little weight in the decision-making process, and it's therefore likely that the licensing authority would be unable to take action of a type referred to if such grounds are the only ones cited in respect of an application. The applicant has invested a large sum of money in the refurbishment of the cafe, ensuring it's a high-quality premises and has a fully compliant extraction system in place to remove odours and reduce noise. Mr. Turan has always tried to make the business something special for his customers, be they visitors passing by or customers from the local area. The intention is for the cafe is to be a place to go for breakfast or lunch, a place in the area and beyond, offering free fine wines and a selection of good quality food where loyal customers know what they are getting. The licensing of this premises is something that's been taken very seriously. The owner could have submitted a license application himself. Instead, he has chosen to employ a licensing consultant to complete the process and offer guidance on compliance with the Licensing Act and the licensing objectives, ensuring that those objectives contained within the Act will be properly promoted and upheld to satisfy the responsible authorities. The applicant will always demonstrate due diligence in all he does to uphold the licensing objectives, and the following documents are in place at the premises in order to meet those requirements and to ensure it's a well-run, safe and compliant premises. Those documents submitted within the documents lodged pack were a noise monitoring plan, Challenge 25 policy and signage, a refusals log, a DPS authorisation form, staff training and an operations manual, and customer signage. There is strong management within the premises who will always consult with responsible authorities or myself for guidance or advice. This is not a vertical drinking establishment and doesn't operate within the nighttime economy. It's a small cafe offering high quality food and beverage to a select clientele. Thank you, Chair. This concludes my submission unless there are any questions from members.
I think what we'll do is we'll have an opportunity for questions at the end. We can hear from Ms. Boylan. Thank you very much for your submissions.
Dear members of the Licensing Subcommittee, thank you for this opportunity to present my concerns regarding the premises licence application submitted by Epicure Cafe. As a resident living directly above the premises, I find myself in a uniquely challenging position. While I respect and appreciate the positive role the cafe plays in the community, my objection to this application stems from the persistent noise issues I experience, compounded by the inherent limitations of our shared Grade 2 listed building. These challenges are not only deeply distressing, but also detrimental to my quality of life, particularly as someone who works from home. The current impact of noise. So the structure of our building, with its hollow walls and minimal cavity between floors, provides virtually no sound insulation. Consequently, even routine cafe activities such as clattering of dishes, the use of the knockbox, music playing and conversations create considerable disruption in my home. Despite my personal investment in soundproofing measures, these efforts have proven insufficient due to the building's architectural limitations. This ongoing disturbance has already affected my ability to concentrate on work and undermines my right to enjoy a peaceful home environment. concerns over licensing and extended hours. So granting a license to serve alcohol and play recorded music, particularly with the extended hours, will exacerbate an already difficult situation. Alcohol consumption often leads to increased noise levels both within the premises and outside, as patrons congregate and depart. Given the cafe's current outdoor seating directly beneath my windows, the prospect of additional noise from late-night activities is deeply troubling. While the applicant has proposed compromises, including reduced hours for licensable activities, I remain concerned that the lack of adequate soundproofing makes the premises unsuitable for such uses altogether. Without proper insulation, even ambient music or small gatherings could significantly disrupt my home life. The unsuitability of the building. This 17th century Grade 2 listed building was not designed to accommodate the noise levels typically associated with a licensed cafe. The architectural constraints make it impossible to implement effective soundproofing without compromising the building's historical integrity. Section 16.3 of Decorum's licensing policy emphasises the importance of considering the characteristics of premises and their impact on the local community. In this case, the lack of sound insulation and the residential nature of the area make it clear that this building is unsuitable for licensed activities. The long-term implications. Granting a premises licence is a permanent decision, and there is no guarantee that the cafe will not transition into a more disruptive venue in the future. While the current owner operates responsibly, the licence would remain tied to the premises, potentially allowing for its use as a full-scale bar or event space by future operators. Proposed compromise. I understand the need to find a balance between supporting local businesses and preserving the well-being of residents. While I strongly believe that sound insulation should be thoroughly explored and implemented before any licence is granted, I am willing to accept a compromise providing strict conditions are enforced. Alcohol sales and recorded music are limited to 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. No alcohol sales or recorded music on Sundays. Outdoor seating designated as non-smoking and restricted to specific hours. Music restricted to a soft background level that does not carry through the building, and temporary event notices limited to 1 per month with advance notice provided to residents. Call for proper sound insulation measures. Above all, I urge this committee to prioritise a proper assessment of sound insulation before any licensing decision is made. This is not merely about enforcing limits on operating hours or noise levels. It is about addressing the fundamental issue of the building's unsuitability for licensed activities. The applicant has a responsibility to explore and implement measures that mitigate the impact of their business on residents. I respectfully request the licensing authority require a report from a qualified acoustic consultant to determine what can be done to improve the building's sound insulation before considering this application. Impact on mental health and well-being. Finally, I want to emphasise the personal toll this situation has taken. The constant noise and the prospect of further disturbances have caused me significant anxiety and stress. My home, which should be a place of rest and sanctuary, has become a source of distress. I ask the committee to consider not only the operational needs of the cafe, but also the rights of residents like myself who deserve to live in peace and comfort. In conclusion, while I acknowledge the applicant's willingness to compromise, I firmly believe that these issues cannot be resolved without first addressing the building's inadequate sound insulation. I urge the licensing subcommittee to require the applicant to undertake this necessary step before granting any licence. Thank you for your time and your careful consideration of this matter.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boylan, for your submissions. Thank you. Very helpful. I suppose I can open it up. Does anybody from either side want to ask a question of the other? First of all, we don't have to.
I don't mind. Do you want to go first?
You go ahead, Rob.
No, it's not compulsory. It's an opportunity.
I think it's clarification really on a couple of points. One is that when an application is submitted, it goes to all responsible authorities, including environmental health, who are the committee's experts on noise and public nuisance. There are a couple of reasons I believe, I mean, I haven't spoken directly to them, but a couple of reasons I believe that they've not objected. One is the music is background ambient music.
Sorry, is this a question? I wasn't sure this was a question.
Okay, sorry, I'll phrase it as a question then, Chair.
It's just a question of point of clarification. I mean, it's only if you've got anything that you didn't fully understand. I'm sure that.
No, okay, I'll leave it, Chair.
Has anybody got any questions?
May I ask the resident, can you tell me how long have you lived? Can you tell
20
me?
years next month.
20 years. And the other, and
25 years.
25. Can you tell me, do you own the property or do
I
you?
do.
You don't? Can I ask, this might be a question to the officers, who owns the whole building?
That's a gentleman called Tom Leach, who is based at Regency Estates in Berkhamsted.
Okay.
He's mine.
He's
and
yours. My leaseholder is a gentleman called, I was,
That's all right, don't
it
worry.
will come to me, I'll tell you, yes.
I just wanted to just.
We've got separate leaseholders.
No, okay, that's fine. So-
It's, he used to own the insurance shop beneath me, so, yeah,
Okay.
it will come to me, isn't it?
Okay, fine. You live there with family or on your?
I live with my partner.
Same
Just
partner,
growing up.
yes.
Fine. Is there any time, because I know where the shop is. Obviously it's in amongst lots of other restaurants, etc., etc. What is the issues with other restaurants or pubs where
I don't
residents?
live above them. The noise for me comes up the walls and up the floor. It's not necessarily outside. I mean, we put up with you get the 3 o'clock.
You don't really hear the other establishments at all. They're far enough away to not, unless there's people congregating outside them. There's a restaurant down the road that people congregate outside of, and you hear people who've left walking up the high street in groups or
People are very loud at saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've got tables outside the cafe, and you do hear those conversations. I mean, in the summer, we just don't open our windows. You know, we can't, because people will be able to hear me. I can hear them. It's not a tall building.
No,
you know,
it's not.
I'm not sure if you.
No, I've seen it, yeah.
It's not a tall building, so we're just not very far from
the pavement.
eight people and dogs barking and babies crying and all of that. But Enda, you know, he has been a breath of fresh air since moving in. The previous owners paid us absolutely no consideration at all. Enda has straight away tried to mitigate any issues. So I do thank you for that.
Just another question can I ask? Your leaseholders, do they understand the problems that you're having? Have they ever put in place, helped you in place with put into?
No, well, I spoke to I emailed my freeholder. So just to set the scene, when I first moved into the property 20 years ago, it was a fishing tackle shop below, and it was filled with stuff, you know, just filled with stuff. So that absorbed noise, you know, so I didn't really, and it was just a retail shop, you know, so we didn't really experience any sort of impact noise, you know. Then in 2000, the chap that owned that shop unfortunately died, so it was turned into a coffee shop. And I did complain to my freeholder and to the owner of that shop at the time about the noise, unbeknownst to me that the freeholder was a director in that property, in that business. So he was never going to do anything about it. I complained, as I say, the previous owner did nothing. I complained to environmental health. I kept noise logs, and they returned a thing saying it's not, whilst it might be a interference, because the noise isn't malicious, you know, they wouldn't do anything about it. So I was, you know, they advised me to take my own case, but I wasn't in a financial position to do that, so there was nothing I could do. As I say, the noise comes from within the building. Okay, that's the problem I have.
Yeah.
But at the moment I hear normal conversations. I hear the music, I hear the banging, the clattering, the dragging of the chairs, every single noise that goes on in there, I hear upstairs. That will only exacerbate if people are having a drink.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, of course,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you, Chair. Right, it's a question I'm going to ask the applicant. Sorry, how long have you had Epicure?
Since May.
Since May last year, 24. And as Epicure just is a coffee shop.
It is a coffee shop.
Have you had
our
any?
second coffee shop.
Oh, okay. Have you had any problems since May of any issues with people coming into the coffee shop at all?
I wouldn't accept that, you know, if there was any issue, I wouldn't allow somebody like that into the shop. I've been running businesses, hotels last 30 years, and I have been responsible doing the late nights, weddings, so I understand what goes on, and that will not be allowed.
Can you?
Excessive drinking or anything like that.
Thank you. How many, if the license is approved, how many people are you allowed to have in the coffee shop itself?
If I'm not wrong, it's 20 to 25, the max space there.
Okay. When people are smoking, what are your actions taken?
I don't smoke, and I don't approve smoking, but if someone goes outside and smoke, I have no control over it. I don't put ashtrays, I don't encourage anyone, and I will make sure it's cleaned if there is anything around that.
So if people are going to smoke outside, which I'm assuming people do still smoke, what actions are you going to take in so people don't start putting their butts on the grounds outside?
Well, I will provide something if that's necessary, but I do not encourage anyone. I mean, in my experience, if I say someone don't smoke, and they will go across the road and do, if they are smokers, I can't control. But within my limits, my area, I will make sure that is always kept.
Okay. How many staff are you expected to have if you get a licence?
Well, 3 to 4, each 4, I would say.
Who's going to be the responsible person who
And the
holds
person
licence?
is in charge there, and I'm also will be there myself as well,
Okay,
most of the time.
that's all at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams, do you have any questions?
Yeah. One of them, there's several, but obviously one of the main issues that's being raised here is noise, and particularly noise travelling through the building from the shop to the residential above. And comments about what may or may not be possible to remediate that. Has any work been done to look at the structure of the building and to see if there are feasible measures to reduce noise travelling, particularly through the floors?
I think that in fairness, what's appropriate and proportionate for a licence until 6 p.m. in the evening, the cost of, and I deal with these people on a regular basis, the cost of an acoustics assessment and then the cost of remedial work within a listed building business would be bankrupt within a week. It just wouldn't be viable. And I think the key element there, and we fully understand, Miss Boylan's situation. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but if you live above a retail premises, particularly in a central area, part and parcel of that is normally the nighttime economy, the noise and everything associated with it. I think as Ms. Boylan said, Mr. Turan has tried to do as much as he possibly can to mitigate noise and nuisance to her. I know factually from 2 visits to the premises that he constantly emphasises to members of staff to make sure the volume of music is kept at an ambient background level, even though between 8 AM and 11 PM it's not licensed, not regulated under the Live Music Act.
Can I add one thing? Is whenever we go in the morning, first thing in the morning, it's quiet there. I make sure that even when we speak, we trying to keep it low. Time to time we forget, and we just control each other to keep the level low.
You're doing a wonderful job, Enda.
And we try our best.
I know.
It's possible.
Is there any more? Councillor?
Not on that note, I can just pick up on something that was said just then, and this is more a question for officers, I think. This is an application for a premises licence for music and for sale of alcohol. But music is not a regulated activity before 11 PM?
Under the licensing exemptions caused by the Live Music Act, their recorded music isn't licensable between 8 AM and 11 PM at night. And this premises does meet the conditions and criteria required to actually...
Yeah, because there's a limit on the number of people, isn't there?
Yeah, 500.
Yeah, we're under that, aren't we? Yeah. So in itself, the music part of it, if it was open in the evening, not selling alcohol, they could play music till 11 o'clock, unlicensed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, if it's, unamplified music.
Yeah, okay, just to clarify that.
Sorry, did you say unamplified?
Unamplified music. Basically,
All recorded
for it to
music.
fall into the live music exemption, the premises has to be selling alcohol at the time for on consumption.
But when you say unamplified music, all recorded music's amplified, isn't it? I mean,
No, ambient music, background music isn't.
so is there a sort of definite, an actual point at which unamplified music becomes amplified?
I'm not an environmental health officer, I'm not sure about decibels.
It's about the level of decibels, but in general, a radio or YouTube music is determined as being background ambient music.
We also keep it very, very low. Anyway, even during the day, you hardly hear music. I mean,
So
It's a bit lively at Christmas, but I'll put it down to Christmas.
I've got a follow-up question. So did you just say that the exemption for music only applies if it's licensed for alcohol?
There are certain criteria that apply, and one of them is that at the time the music is playing, that the alcohol is being sold for consumption on the premises.
Okay, so if it opens as a coffee shop now, unlicensed for alcohol, the music exemption wouldn't
If it was
apply?
playing amplified music, that would be licensable.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a minefield.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've done a few of these. I appreciate that there is.
So, to put it very straightforwardly, the grant of this licence would allow music to be played amplified up to.
Because we've not applied for it.
No, the music that's on the application is within the exemption period. So between 8 AM and 11 PM at night, it's in that exemption period. So theoretically, that music is not licensed. So statutory noise nuisance, it could be classed as that, and environmental health could pick it up, but licensing can't enforce.
So this licence won't make any difference to the music, to the ability to play music?
no.
The music will be irrespective of...
Yes.
Apart from the fact that it's not currently trading in the evening. But it could.
Yeah, could have done.
So the licence will make it's neither here nor there whether we grant it.
That was the point of my previous question.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Can I?
I think it's important to remember with this that there is a review process in the Licensing Act. So, and Rob will bear me out on this. Basically, the music conditions, any conditions relating to recorded music are suspended throughout the period that is the exemption covers, which is 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night, as long as those other criteria are met. Now, if the committee, if the application or a licence is reviewed because there are noise issues or repeated problems, then potentially those conditions can be reinstated and then they would be enforced.
And that is, as Sally says, a right for Ms. Boylan at any stage if she thought, oh, and I'm not saying it would, but, you know, some premises then get their licence, say, I got my licence now, I can do what I like and I can crank the music up. There is always the option of calling the licence for a review, where the premises licence holder is then held accountable for not conforming to the licensing objectives and the conditions within the premises licence.
Whereas if no licence is granted today, you could still play unamplified music, but what would happen in that situation then? There's no opportunity for a review then, is there? If there's no licence, there's no opportunity for a review.
It would have to be a
Statutory nuisance, I think it would have to go down a different
private
legislative
nuisance.
So the grant of the licence would actually give us more control.
Yes,
Than,
most definitely.
than not granting the licence.
Yes.
When did the premises become a cafe?
2020, so it was, I think it was 2020, wasn't it? Yeah. In the October, so it was shortly after the change of use. So when I moved in, obviously it was a retail shop, yeah, and would have had to go through a planning application to have a change of use to a cafe.
Yes.
And obviously I would have strongly objected to that. But this was changed to a cafe shortly after that permitted change of use.
So it went through, presumably there would have been a...
No, it didn't go through planning, nothing. No, because it was after that. So I don't know if I've got my years muddled up or whether it was 2020. I thought it was 2020.
I think
But this is not a planning hearing, so it's nothing to do with it. It's not,
yeah, so it didn't need to go through planning, whereas 6 months before it would have done.
Okay, well, it's not, we can't do anything about that. So since it's become a cafe, what sort of noises, what have you heard?
There's a lot of banging, because where they decant the coffee grounds,
yes,
into a knockbox, there's that you hear every single bang, so it's like having somebody do DIY all day, every day. Dragging of chairs, the grinder, the hand dryer, even loading the dishwasher. There's a lot of slamming about when they're clearing up. The door opening and closing, the door at the front slams, the toilet door, the door in between the kitchen and the cafe. You hear conversations, you hear absolutely everything that goes on. Dogs barking, babies
also,
crying.
there's we're not permitted to have double glazing because it's a listed building. So you can clearly hear people talking outside, even at a normal level. So you can hear when people are sitting outside, you can hear them talking, you can hear dogs barking, you can hear,
the music, I hear the music, you don't hear it so much, but I hear the music.
So
and to be fair, you know, it is at an ambient level, but it's still there, you're still aware of it. You know, that's not necessarily the major problem, because I'm sure if I went down to Ender and said, it's a little bit loud today, would you mind turning it down? He would, I know he would. It's more about the vibration noise, it's the conversations, it's the groups of people, you know. Even on it's Sunday morning, I've come downstairs and there's all this just...
My bedroom window is
yeah.
Thank you.
very low.
Just going to ask Mr. Turan, so how many people sit outside in the summer on a Sunday?
Maximum.
8, you'd probably like it.
So it's about
If I take.
And that's a sort of a peak Sunday morning, the height of summer or something?
Not really. What I find, like between two shops, as an example, I'm giving it, we open actually later in here. I would open in Bergkamps at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm opening here 8,
yeah,
after 8, which is, I also find that all the customers, they come in later, not earlier. So, you know, really you're looking 9, 10 before people get busy in there. So I never seen 8 people sitting outside 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock.
So what would you expect to happen if you got the licence? At the moment, the condition is you're a cafe, you can't sell alcohol.
Yes.
And that, it seems to me that would be the only difference the licence would make, because you can play music anyway.
Yes.
So the licence would enable you to sell alcohol within the hours.
With the meal.
Yeah.
With the food.
Would that...
I'm not there to make a bar or
I was going to say, I think we probably needed to explain that the,
Well, my question was, what difference would it make to the time when the customers coming? Would they be, you'd expect them to just stay a little bit later or be there a bit longer, or have it would be a slightly different clientele?
not necessarily that so much, just, you know, if you look at the general area and what's on offer, someone wants to go for lunch and thinks, and we're not talking about, you know, a boozy session, but want to go for lunch and fancy a glass of wine with lunch, then that place doesn't have a license and doesn't serve wine. That place does. The competition determines that, you know, that place won't survive.
May I add something in there?
Yeah.
It's also what I find that some of my customers will come in there. Somebody may not drink a coffee, but the other one wants a wine. So if that person knows I'm serving, they will come to us rather than going to a pub or elsewhere. So I won't lose that customer.
Yes.
So I would like to keep that customer, you know, give an option. That is all. It's not nothing to do with I'm gonna have a busy one.
Sorry, just to add, Chair, if I may. I mean, that was the reason that, you know, once Miss Boylan made the point she made, to emphasise that this wasn't an idea of turning it into a pub or a bar or whatever. We automatically reduced the hours from 11 p.m. to 6 p.m. so that it essentially covered the full lunch period. And additionally offered the condition that the premises would not be converted, and that would be a condition within the licence, should you decide to grant, not be converted to a vertical drinking establishment. So someone else could not take over the licence, move all the tables and chairs and turn it into a pub.
And could somebody else take over the licence and use it to pump up the volume of the music, or is that still unamplified?
They would, I mean, it's debatable, but if Miss Boylan, for instance, went to environmental health and said, this premises licence is causing public nuisance through noise.
Yes, it will be subject to the usual controls of
then
environmental
those
health.
controls
Also nuisance.
environmental health could quite
Indeed, but
willingly.
as far as the licence is concerned, a difference would be the volume then. We would be giving a licence subject to ordinary controls of public-private nuisance, statutory environmental health, but the licence would enable another proprietor to start one, which they couldn't under the licence now. Yeah, please.
As it stands, I mean, obviously, Mr. Turan is the licence holder. He would choose to run his business in a certain way. If somebody else, if he transferred the licence to someone else and they wanted to change the whole dynamic of it, from the point of the vertical drinking establishment, if they wanted to change the conditions on the licence, they've got to go through a variation process. If there's a significant impact on the licensing objectives in doing that, it would have to be a full variation. So it would go through a consultation process and potentially hearing if there are objections.
My concern is just with volume of music, whether they stand up or sitting
They
down.
have the option to actually turn the music up if they wish to do so, but there are other controls. There is the review process for the premises licence. There is also the controls of environmental health under the statutory noise legislation.
Yes, I fully understand that, but I'm just trying to work out what difference the licence makes to the volume of music.
If they've got recorded music on their licence, I mean, as it's not an actual licensable activity between those hours while those exemptions apply, they can.
So the licence makes no difference to the volume of music?
Not at the moment because it's an exempt activity.
Can I move on to slightly, I just want to clarify different aspects, different parts of the papers I've got in front of me, particularly relating to the hours. But section 2 on page 8 of the agenda sets out what the application is. Recorded music Monday to Sunday 11 to 22:30. Similarly, alcohol Monday to Sunday 11 to 22:30. But when I get to the very last page of the agenda, which is Mr. Edge's compromise letter of the 16th of December, it suggests that licensing activities were between 11 and 1800.
Yes.
So, is there an option for this? Because obviously evening noise would be of significant concern. So would we, if we grant a licence that was between 11 and 1800 rather than 22:30, is that going to be acceptable to the applicant?
It was us that made that suggestion as conditions offered within the mediation. There were, sorry if I may, Chair.
Yes, please, yes.
There were 3 conditions offered as part of the mediation, so that the licensable activities would change to 11 a.m. till 1800, that the temporary event notices would only be 1 per month, and that a condition that the premises would always remain a cafe/restaurant and not be converted to a vertical drinking establishment. So that's our amended application, for want of a better word.
So effectively the application to 2230 is not.
It's not on the table.
No, so we can amend that application if we want, if we've got minded to grant a licence. Okay, because I think there is a significant difference between an activity that finishes at 6 p.m. and an activity that finishes at 22:30.
Very much so. And that's why I think, you know, Mr. Turan has listened to not just the ladies that are here today, but the others, and said, look, you know, I wish to work in harmony with not just local residents, but with those living above the premises. And that if that's a compromise that, you know, suits the business to remain viable, that is also good for those residents, then, you know, that's a win-win for everyone.
Okay. Well, I only just spotted it when I got to the very last page, and
Right.
there's a significant difference between those 2 pieces of intention. So, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think it's set out somewhere. I didn't see that.
The applicant's
Thank you.
compromise is in the very last page of the agenda.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's what I understood the applicant to be.
Yeah, it's right at the end.
before.
I just picked up on that.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
No, well, just apart from the kind of, you know, I don't want to make this all about music levels because, you know, ENDA has been really considerate with that. It is more about the people noise, okay? It's about the impact noises, it's about groups of people, you know, and I'm reassured, ENDA, when you said, you know, it's nice for people just to be able to have a glass of wine with their lunch, you know. I expect in order to make your business viable, there will be events of some nature, you know, taking place. You know, I did suggest a compromise. Thank you to Rob for, you know, agreeing to that. It is just about future-proofing this so that, you know, it won't become a full-scale bar. You know, that would be an absolute nightmare. And I think Fiona and I both agree that we, you know, we want to have this two-way conversation with the coffee shop, you know, be able to come down to you, Enda. I think this has probably opened a discussion where we can come down and say, can you stick some rubber on the base of the chairs and, you know, just things like that that could mitigate some of the noise that we already encounter. If it gets too much in terms of groups of people being noisy, then I don't know what we do with that, you know, so...
Yes, Councillor Weston.
Yeah, just going on from the noise, have you put in a request to the Health and Environment Agency to Cora about the noise, and have they been
previously?
And what is their stance on it? Have they been round and
No, they didn't come round. I sent in my recordings and my sort of tally charts and all of that. This was back at the end of 22. And they replied and said there was nothing they could do about it. So they didn't come round though.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that was what that question
Yeah,
was.
that's fine.
Sorry, I missed that because I was talking to Ms. Salter, but was that a question about past?
Yeah, I just asked, had the residents put in a request to have the environmental to come up to assess the noise?
Right,
And
okay.
she said she did do, but nothing happened on that, on that
Okay,
respect. So
I missed it.
that's fine, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's been raised. Has anyone else got any more questions?
Not for me, no, I'm happy to move in.
Anything else that anybody would like to say?
Are you talking about final sum up?
Yes, if you wish, yeah.
If I may, please, Chair.
Yes.
I won't go through everything because I think, we've probably discussed most things at length. I'll just go through bullet points, if I may, Chair. On behalf of Mr. Turan, we tried to engage quite fully with everyone and tried to find, a middle ground on these things. I think there has to be an acceptance of the fact that it is a cafe, it's a retail unit, and as we've said, if you live above a retail unit, there are going to be noise. It's somewhere that's open to members of the public. And I think there was a key point from Miss Boylan that the previous cafe owners showed a total disregard for the people who lived above and didn't even wish to find a middle ground. I don't think that's the case, and I think it's been demonstrated that Mr. Turan has shown due diligence in everything he's trying to do to mitigate problems. I think we've discussed fully the deregulation of the Live Music Act and the effect of that. I've said that there are comprehensive policies and procedures in place, not least the staff training. And in a conversation with Mr. Turan the other day, we're amending the staff training to cover, and it would normally be included in there, but this one is a little bit specific about, noise and what causes noise and how to mitigate it. And by that being conveyed to individual members of staff, that might just help to reduce some of that. I think it's a major point that of the 8 responsible authorities, including environmental health, none of them have raised any issues.
It helps. We've got that point from the beginning.
Yeah. Additionally, there is a noise management plan in place, which is being implemented and used at the moment. And we understand the concerns, and we'll continue to engage with both Ms. Boylan and Miss Adams on all these points. I think that really summarises. I don't want to repeat everything I've already said, Chair.
Thank you. Don't feel you have to. We have listened to everything you've said, so don't feel you have to go over everything again. But please do let us know.
I will just say one thing, that the noise management plan, whilst it addresses ways to control the noise of people leaving and entering the property, it doesn't really cover the noise within the property, and that is our sole concern.
Yeah.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then I think we're ready to deliberate. So if you could excuse us, we will try to be quick, and we will be able to let you know shortly.